Good afternoon and welcome to our first meeting of March. We had a work session earlier that'll somewhat flow into a couple of items on our agenda. As invocation tonight was given by Councilman Stewart, in respect to the flag will be given by Councilman Beatrice Thompson. Please rise.
Let us pray. Our most gracious Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking you for blessings as we gather here tonight. We pray for your guidance in the matters in front of us tonight and ask that you would clearly show us how to conduct our work with a spirit of joy and enthusiasm. Give us the desire to find ways to excel in our work. Help us work together and encourage each other to excellence. Finally, we ask that we would challenge each other to reach higher and farther to be the best that we can be. All these things we ask in your name, Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we start our meeting tonight, we have a proclamation that's become an annual tradition. I always know that spring is near when we do this proclamation. But the proclamation has to do with one of our legacy institutions in town, Anderson University. I'm going to ask their rep to come up while I read the proclamation. She told me everybody was busy, and she drew the short straw, but she's always here, and I appreciate the work that she does. But the proclamation reads that whereas Anderson University is a selective, comprehensive university offering bachelor's, master's, and doctoral degrees on campus and online with a well-deserved reputation as one of the best private institutions in the South. And whereas at the heart of the education program is an uncompromising commitment to prepare students with both a breadth and depth of knowledge they need not only to be successful in the career of their choice, but to be successful in all realms of life, in family, community, work, and faith. And whereas Anderson University's annual A-Day takes place on April the 4th of 2024, and whereas A-Day is a fundraising effort that provides the support necessary to foster the academic achievements of AU students, further the professional development of AU's world-class faculty, and accelerate AU's growing campus programs and initiatives. Whereas A-Day is an opportunity for people everywhere to come together to support Anderson University, and whereas during A-Day we celebrate all the things that make Anderson special. And Trojans across the globe will participate and remember the past, celebrating the future and celebrating the present and impacting the future. And whereas the City of Anderson wishes Anderson University a very successful A-Day and desire the alumni, friends, and citizens of our citizens will support the cause by joining the festivities, thereby strengthening the bonds of our community. Now, therefore, I, Terrence V. Roberts, and my council do hereby proclaim April the 4th of 2024 as Anderson University Day in the city of Anderson and encourage the commitment to share their support of AU on social media, wear that black and gold, and demonstrate that this community is true to AU. Signed this 11th day of March 2024. Joy?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We appreciate this opportunity every year. I'm in charge of A-Day, so I feel like it rolls around way too often. But we thank you so much for allowing us to be a part of this community and how you all support everything that we do, welcoming our students and our parents, and being there. You all are there for meetings and events and play in our golf tournament and support the university, and we are just so grateful to be a part of this. And I want to invite everyone. We have our first Trojan spring game on March the 23rd at 1 o'clock. So we're still undefeated right now. You're welcome. But thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
The minutes of our February 26th meeting have been distributed. Are there any corrections or additions to those minutes? Not hearing any, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
First by Dr. Thompson,
Second.
second by Mr. Martinez. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes of February 26th passed unanimously. I have a couple items of old business, and the first item of old business is request consideration of an ordinance to annex and zone to a combination of R20 single-family residential and PDD, which is a planned development district, approximately 43 acres located at 1401 Crestview Road. Mr. McEwen.
Thank you. This did come back to you from your referral to the Planning Commission with unanimous approval from the Planning Commission. Mr. Maurice McKenzie, our Planning and Development Director, will go over this item for you.
Okay, thank you. In your packet, there's a location map and a conceptual drawing of the proposal. I passed around before the meeting a copy of the draft PDD guidelines for your review. Again, the PDD guidelines are the development standards for this particular piece of property. And again, this request is to annex approximately 43 acres located along Crestview Road to a combination of R20 single-family residential and PDD planned development district. The R20 zoning applies to some individual lots that are planned along the Midway Road frontage, and then we'll talk about that in a minute, but then the PDD portion of it applies to a proposed subdivision on the balance of the property. And for that PDD portion, the new subdivision will consist of up to 94 lots, and about 40 acres of this property will be part of this PDD. As you know, the PDD has development standards that outline all the development details, and again, that's in your in front of you at your desk today. And there's several specifics in that document, but I'll just hit on a few of the high points. They are proposing a single-family detached residential subdivision of up to 94 lots, the minimum lot size being 8,000 square feet with an average of just over 10,000 square feet, the minimum lot widths being 65 feet. Again, that's a minimum. Some other things you'll see in there. One is a 50-foot wide, heavily landscaped buffer between Crestview Road and the back of the new lots in the subdivision. And this is as a result of the new landscaping and tree preservation guidelines that you passed back in August. So this is really the first residential development we've seen with this application. And again, with a 50-foot wide buffer, heavy landscaping along Crestview Road. The applicant's also proposing a 25% open space tree preservation area minimum, and existing mature trees on the site will be preserved because they're part of the 9 acres that they're planning on preserving for this property. A lot of the property is kind of a field. There's not a lot of trees on the property, but fortunately the ones that do exist will be saved. As part of the tree planting, entry boulevard street trees will be planted every 40 feet in the right-of-way as you enter. Gives you that street boulevard effect. And then everywhere else in the subdivision, there will be street trees planted in the right-of-way at a rate of 1 per lot. And of course, there will be sidewalks that are required on both sides of the street. And again, there's more details in the PDD document. Be glad to go over those in a moment if we need to. And again, the other piece, about 3 acres of the 40-acre parcel, which fronts along Midway Road, it's proposed to have an R20 zoning classification, which means a minimum lot size of 20,000 square feet. This was referred to you, and it did go before Planning Commission on March 5th. They did recommend approval with a couple of conditions, stating that a traffic impact study is conducted for this development, and resulting from that study, we will review that and implement any recommendations as part of the plan review process later. Also, they asked that the entrance and exit to the subdivision will have 3 lanes, 1 entry lane and then 2 exit lanes, basically a left and right out. We have talked to the applicant about those conditions, and they were glad to accommodate those, and those are included in the PDD document. So this comes to you tonight for first reading. Be glad to answer any questions you may have. Also, the applicant is in attendance if you have anything more detailed to ask.
Thank you. And I did watch the the planning commission's meeting last week, and I know there was some public comment. Before we get into, is there anyone publicly that would like to speak for or against the project? I would ask. Good, we'll go directly to council's comments, questions. Mr. Stewart?
Yes, I guess kind of like, I guess the planning commission recommended, I just see as, that traffic along Crestview Road, once all those houses get built out, when you get down to the stop sign in front of the church, I know it's a future roundabout is gonna be there, but still, traffic backs up all the way back to Old Williamson Road there in the morning trying to get to T.L. Hannah. In the morning, you get caught in that traffic. I just don't see, I just see it's puts more of a congestion in an area that's already over congested. And I know we've got that roundabout plan, but I don't know how much of that's going to, solve that issue that's there.
Is there anybody to talk specifically about that?
Yes, we have Mr. Mike Gay here that's been in coordination with South Carolina Department of Transportation. It is their project. They identified this project some time ago, and it's been their pipeline. Now it's actually project design and almost ready to go to construction. But Mr. Gay.
Yes, you were sent earlier via email the traffic study that DOT had done. It's a summary we put together for you. That kind of goes over what the effects of these might be. If you don't have one, I have a copy of it for you. So if anybody needs one, let me know. All right. And this study was done back in 2019, prior, I guess in their due diligence to do preliminary engineering. So you kind of get an idea that this was a snapshot then. These kind of, I can go over the results of that once you all get these. You have seen this before. Not much has changed from this, except the current schedule. As you has been well documented, DOT is on their own time frame with this project. We have AM and PM peak hours, and those are outlined here in these tables on the side here. You can see currently with our existing conditions that our AM peak at Midway and Crestview is a level of service F. That means it doesn't move well at all. It's like a traffic jam. And our PM peak is a D, which means it's sort of moving, but you gotta wait. Now you've got your delay. We do have, underneath the existing conditions, we have what's called a no-build condition, meaning if we don't do anything, if we do nothing, this is what's gonna happen in 2042. So you go from a delay of 58 seconds in your AM peak hour to a delay of 258 seconds if we do nothing. So we've identified that there is a problem. We see it, the models show it, it's there. So to solve the problem, DOT chose to put in these roundabouts and also relocate Harriet Circle. So what does that do? For the Midway and Crestview intersection, 2042, with this, now you have to understand when I say 2042, I don't mean that they did this in a vacuum. This is build out. So this is the idea that a lot of this land around it's going to develop and there's going to be more traffic coming through. Your AM peak hour is a level of service C with a delay of 16 seconds. That is way better than our 258 second estimate if we do nothing. So we are aware of the problem. DOT is endeavoring to fix it in the most efficient and safe way possible that they see. And the same is fairly true with the Harriet Circle relocation. You can see there that our AM and PM with the roundabout installed, this traffic study shows that it's a level of service A. So in essence, it would be free flowing. And that is with their projected build out. And the current schedule on this, preliminary engineering is just finishing up. They had their big public meeting and they're putting together that information now. They'll get it back to us in the policy committee and you'll be able to see the comments the public made on the design. And after that, we're going into right of way. DOT says right-of-way takes approximately a year. We're hoping to cut that down on this project because there are very few business owners, or very few owners here, and it should be pretty easy to negotiate with 1 to 2 owners. And then construction will begin in 2025, and they are saying 18 months to 2 years to complete the roundabout. So we're looking at a 2027 open date at some point. That's their current schedule. As you can see, that is not their previous schedule. 2 years ago, there was a different schedule, but they have pushed it back due to, I guess, some issues in preliminary engineering.
Good. Let's stay on this topic for a second. I don't, anything else? Mr. Gay? Ms. Roberts?
The AM peak and the PM peak traffic score, those are peak hours. That's not the entire day, correct?
No, sir, that
That's
is
just
not the
for
entire day, and that would be,
Maybe an hour or two in the morning, an hour or two in the afternoon.
well, your
correct?
peak hour is your 60-minute window that you are the busiest. So in the morning, I don't know what their peak hour is, but I can guess it's during school drop-off. So whatever is the busiest time in that 2-hour window, hour and 30-minute window, that would be your peak hour.
So those scores are reflective of just those peak
Yes, sir,
hours.
the busiest.
Right, okay.
And you can go out there and observe it. I did today I ate my lunch out there for an hour and a half, and it was free flowing the entire time. And then that was at lunchtime. And so those peaks are having that issue. However, you can go out there at 10 o'clock and you have just a couple cars pressing stop sign.
Good. Anything else? I mean, that's a real topic. We should talk about it more out loud, but that gives us a lot of information that we can discuss out in the public. Thank you, Mike. No, I'm sorry.
No.
Anything else, ma'am?
No,
Well-
I'm good.
Yep, we'll move back to Maurice. Any other questions of Maurice and the PDD document?
I don't have any questions for Maurice, but I would like to make some commentary. This is in my district. This is in District 2. For those that live in District 2, you're probably experiencing and feeling a lot of growth in our area. That is real. We just went through a redistricting process last year. 2,000 constituents had to come off District 2 and be removed into different districts because of the size of our district. And that's not taking into consideration the growth that's going to be happening. So I just want to talk to you a little bit about what strategic growth looks like and not reckless growth. I'll speak on behalf of my opinion on council. Nothing that we approach is reckless. There's a lot of conversations that happen through work studies. As you can see, there was a traffic impact study. Regardless of what we feel, there are tangible numbers that come associated with growth. Now, if we're gonna grow, we wanna make sure we're doing it from a sense that makes sense, right? So we wanna have control. I feel confident in this PDD that we're putting in place, that we're gonna be giving ourselves some better setbacks. We're gonna see ourselves with more trees based on our tree covenant that we passed. I think it's thoughtful. We're taking into consideration what not only the constituents, but what council feels. And then we're also looking at the benefits for these individuals that are gonna be purchasing in these areas. You know, right now, it's between my understanding and my conversation with Maurice, with David, just the fire services that we would have in this area, the police services that we would have for these individuals. Right now, they're in a district or in an area right now that it'd be difficult to get certain coverages in there. So I feel good about that benefit. I do think as someone who lives in that district, it's gonna feel a little bit different. I also think it's gonna take some time for these homes to develop. You know, my optimism tells me that maybe we can line up DOT with some of this growth, and hopefully some of that can happen organically. But the concern is real. Anderson is changing. It's becoming a desirable place to live, situated between 29 and 81. It's going to be a residential corridor. You're going to see a lot more homes popping up. You know, I mentioned in the last meeting how important it would be to maybe take into some consideration the widening of some roads. I was reminded that sometimes when you widen roads and you add more lanes, it encourages speeding and people wanting to pass each other. We want to keep the speed limits, you know, appropriate to a residential area. So I think it's about keeping that traffic flowing and moving in a way that makes sense and that's still safe. So I'd like to say that for all constituents, I haven't heard a lot of phone calls. Maybe my phone will ring a lot now after this meeting. But I'll tell you up to now, what I'm seeing a lot is just the concern of the unknown narrative. We know there's safety concerns, we know there's density concerns, but we're thinking through that. And as council members that have been elected, we're asking for your trust that we're being good stewards of these decisions. So just wanted to say that. No, I was long-winded there, but I thought it was appropriate to mention that.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments?
One comment.
Let's do Mr. Robertson and Ms. Stewart.
I want to continue on with the traffic issue. On this council, there are 3 of us who sit on the ACATS Policy Committee. And ACATS is the NPO that identifies and funds these projects, transportation projects in this area. Mr. Martinez alluded to that between corridors Highway 81 and Highway 29, which are the commercial corridors that generally lead from the city toward the interstate, but between those 2 commercial corridors lies all of this residential area, and that's what you're seeing. You're seeing the city residentially build between these 2 corridors. That corridor has been identified by ACATS for a corridor study, and out of that study will come recommendations. We're not here as a council to say we need to put a 4-lane road here or widen this shoulder, that sort of thing. That'll come from a study of that corridor. And out of those recommendations, ACATS will identify the scope of the corridor. There are a lot of crossroads between. It's being identified as the Old Williamston Road Corridor Study, but it will be beyond that. There's also the Calhoun Midway Road, and then the crossroads that go between those. So that entire section will be included in that study. So I'm confident that there's solutions coming, and there will be. I feel like there'll be agreement amongst this council, and funding will follow. Now these wheels turn slow. I'm optimistic that it'll somewhat follow pace with that as these areas are built out. But I assure you that there are solutions on the way.
Ms. Stewart?
Yeah, just kind of echoing a little bit further on the traffic. I know that, if you're going from Simpson Road out to Crestview, it's a mixture of city subdivision is going to be in the city, some is going to be still in the county. But again, we're just, making more and more traffic from that long stretch of road, and that's a very long stretch without anybody breaking speed from Crestview all the way down to Simpson Road. You can easily pick up 80, 90 miles an hour without having to stop. I would like for us to kind of look to see what we can do to reduce, I don't know whether it's put in a break point somewhere in between there's a cross or something, but that's just a lot of speeding. There's a lot of wrecks happening coming out of Silverleaf, coming across, I think, that Harriet Circle right there at that intersection, trying to get through with cars speeding up and down that road all hours of the night. So I don't know what we can do, but I just asked that we could take a look at that long stretch of road, because that is a very long stretch that people pick up a high rate of speed, and most of the time when they get at the corner of Simpson Road and Calhoun, they blow right through that stop sign, and there's wrecks happening at that 4-way stop sign all the time as well, and I'm sure the police reports would back that up.
Any other questions, comments? Hearing none. I'd entertain a motion.
Make the motion to approve as presented.
First by Mr. Newton,
Second.
second by Mr. Lockridge. Any further discussion? I would say, just on closing, all good points. I think Mr. Jeff Roberts said it best in regards to planning. It does take planning, and maybe Mr. Lockridge and Mr. Stewart and Dr. Thompson, I can remember we started talking about this particular section of our city, and the first thing we had to do was make sure that we could cover it from police, public works, and fire. And that was well over a decade ago. And so it does take planning. We have first and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously on the first reading. Our next item, old business, is request consideration of an ordinance to amend section 10.2.11 of the City of Anderson's zoning ordinance. Ms. McEwen?
Okay, thank you. This also was a referral to Planning Commission, came back to you, unanimously recommended approval. This is making some quick adjustments, or some small adjustments rather, to the planned development districts, such as the one that we were just talking about. It gives you flexibility here. Mr. Maurice McKenzie will go over how we identified this need for this revision and some advantageous reasons for doing so. Mr. McKenzie.
Thank you. Yeah, on occasion, refinements to the zoning ordinance are necessary to improve its effectiveness, and when we're going through this process, it requires a public hearing by the Planning Commission and the City Council. It went before Planning Commission back on March 5th, but what we're talking about specifically in the zoning ordinance this evening is the Planned Development District section, and particularly how it pertains to the minimum lot size requirements for PDDs. You're very familiar with planned development districts. In fact, you just acted on one a moment ago, and you can see how they can provide flexible opportunities for innovative design, open space, things of that nature that conventional zoning just can't provide you. So it gives us opportunity to have better control over developments. And we are looking at the minimum lot requirements for PDDs, and we think it may be practical to lessen the minimum acreage so we can have better flexibility and more control over developments. In particular, infill developments inside the city, like the Murray Franklin project that you're familiar with. Also, there's a lot of other properties inside the city that just aren't that large. When we are dealing with PDDs like the one we just dealt with, it's usually when we annex property for something that's 40 plus acres or whatever the case may be. But we see that there can be a lot of benefits in terms of dealing with infill developments like the Murray Franklin project, which is less than 5 acres in size. So we are looking specifically at section 10.2.11 of the zoning ordinance, and that lists the minimum acreage required for PDDs. And specifically it says that, this is current, that a planned residential development, the minimum is 5 acres to have a PDD. A planned mobile home development is 5 acres. A planned commercial development is 10 acres. And a planned industrial development is 25 acres. And what we're bringing to you, what we're recommending is that we reduce the planned residential development from 5 acres to 3 acres to better accommodate infill development and things of that nature. We are looking to reduce the planned commercial district standards from 10 acres to 5 acres and leave the planned industrial development minimum unchanged at 25 acres. We do recommend just striking the planned mobile home development line because we can consider a planned mobile home development, if we get one, as a residential development. So it could fall into the category of planned residential development. But again, this did go before Planning Commission on March 5th, and they unanimously recommended approval.
Thank you, sir. Questions, comments? We talked about it a little bit before it went to planning, but seems logical.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we amend section 10.2.11 of our zoning ordinance.
Got first by Mr. Stewart,
Second.
second by Ms. Martinez. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It passes unanimously. Moving on to new business, we have 3 items of new business, and the first item of new business is request consideration of a contract for the Recreation Center roof and envelope projects. Mr. McEwen?
Thank you. This project, the Recreation Center roof and envelope project, has been in our financial capital model for just about 5 years. We forecast these out on a 5-year basis. This project is designed to repair or replace the roof system and the envelope for water intrusion. The city engaged with DP3 architects to evaluate the recreation center, the current conditions, condition assessment, and determine the scope of work. The city also prepared to move forward with what's called the Construction Manager at Risk, or CMAR, method of procurement for the project. This method of procurement brings a design team together with a selection of a contractor and the engineer or the architect that's selected. So in this case, DP3 Architects, and then through the RFQ process, which went through at your October 23rd, 2023 meeting, CE Bourne was selected through the process to perform pre-construction services for the Anderson Recreation Center roof and envelope project. And through this, the initial scope of work, you determine your final drawings together, your final budget, and a timeline to move forward. Once that's all established and your scope of work is established, you can move forward to the next step. And that's what we have here before you tonight, is a contract to enter into an agreement between the owner and the construction manager, which is CE Bourne, to include the guaranteed maximum price for this project. Included in your packet is the pricing sheet, the contract, for $758,420. It does include several different things. It has unit price costs, and the unit price costs are itemized in your price sheet. And those are items so that we go ahead and we do have the pricing for them. Some may be used, some may not be used. If it's not used, even though it's included the $758,000 price cost, 100% of that is just remitted back to the city on final accounting of the project. If there are any savings identified during the project, and this is the part of the teamwork that you have together, there might be a different build method, there might be a reduction in material. There's a split of savings there, 50-50 between the contractor and the owner, the city in this case. And so with that, it does provide in your price sheet, a detail price list of what's expected, also unit price costs as we come across different scenarios that we already have the price for, and it's agreed upon, so we can move forward with the project without delay. And this is really the most efficient procurement process that a city or institution such as ours can go through to create a collaborative working relationship between the design team and the contractor. And we did this on both the City Hall and the Municipal Business Center building at the exact same time. It was a very large project, over $6 million project. It was the same team, DP3 Architects and CE Bourne. It went extremely efficient, great product work that we have, and we're about 3 years from that construction. Things are doing really well. And so we're very happy with the team. This is funded again through the Hospitality Fund balance. We've been carrying a budget amount there that covers this amount. If this was approved tonight, it would start mobilize April the 15th, and the project would last to about July 2024. So once you get started, it's a pretty fast project. The slowest part has been the design, the assessment, and so forth. But tonight, we are recommending the approval of this contract before you with a guaranteed maximum price with CE Bourne for $758,420 with the other conditions I listed earlier. We did have a work session earlier on this, and we're able to answer very specific construction detailed questions from the council, and also the budget as well.
Good. Questions, comments?
Mayor,
Mr. Roberts?
I knew I would say something, right?
You should.
I want to reiterate something that, because it is a complex project, high level of details, and therefore this is the best method in my opinion. And it also, instead of the contractor and the owner and the architect all being in adversarial roles, it brings everybody on the same side of the table. So we're all pulling for the same best results. And it's fair on the contractor's part to agree to a 50-50 split on those items. His fees are very favorable. So with that, I'll move that we accept this CMAR approach for this project.
Second.
First by Mr. Jeff Roberts, a second by Mr. Newton. Any further discussion? And I say that, we looked at Jeff, he's a contractor, so he
knows.
He knows. But having said that, I think the Seymour, how long has that been in existence? Decade, couple? It's probably been,
Longer than you think,
but more popular,
I would say so.
yeah, here recently. Thank you. No further comments. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? It passes unanimously on general approval. Thank you. The second item of new business is request consideration of a special supplement ordinance providing the issuance and sale of special obligation bonds, hospitality fee pledged, and the principal amount to not exceed $5.6 million. Ms. McEwen?
Okay, again, a lot of planning went into this. We're following our recreation master plan as far as projects are concerned in Parks and Recreation. This was identified in our recreation master plan that was completed roughly about 4 years ago. And so we've been working through the progress, making good progression with the different projects we've had before you and approved and improvements throughout the city. We did have a work session February the 26th, 2024, where we went through over the details of the public finance side of this. And a lot of those details are to come in the fall for the actual approval when a bond would be issued. Tonight, we also had a work session again tonight. That's important to mention as well, that just prior to this meeting, we had a work session to answer more detailed questions, and we have our bond attorney here tonight from Byrd Foreman, Mr. Mike Burns. The decision tonight is simply for financing options or the initial bond ordinance for $5.65 million to authorize bond financing, or the cost, with including the cost of the issuance to move the project ahead, but not to issue the actual bond. And Ms. Margaret Martin will go over some of the details and your background sheet here. Ms. Martin.
Thank you. David did touch on a lot of the points that I was going to follow up on from our work session earlier tonight. But in order to continue with Phase 2 of the Lindley Park upgrades, a portion of this project must be funded through these bonds, hospitality fee pledge bonds. We are using some ARPA funds for the stormwater sewer water portion of fixing the Lindley Park projects, sewer funds, and some cash fund balance reserves that we have accumulated for this project, and remaining bond proceeds from our 21 bonds that were borrowed for the Recreation Center Phase 3. So that leaves the remaining balance to be borrowed in a hospitality bond. As we talked about at our work session, the finalized plans of 15 versus 20 years, interest rates, public or private placement, will be all worked out this summer as our financial advisor, First Tryon, observes the markets. And so our estimated annual debt service can range from $455,000 a year to $530,000, depending on what City Council approves. So we will come back to you in the fall for final borrowing and terms, but this authorization allows the staff to move forward with the construction contract. So we are recommending approval of the second supplemental ordinance providing for the issuance and sale of the special obligation bonds in an amount not exceeding $5.6 million.
Thank you. Questions, comments?
I have one.
Yes, sir.
This is such a good project for the city. This is one of those things that just happens to be in my area. But at the same time, it's also an area, a project that will benefit the whole city. So in that case, I want to see this done, so I'll vote, or I'll move that we adopt secondary supplemental ordinance providing for insurance and sale of special obligation bonds not to exceed $5.65 million to defray the cost of tourism-related projects. Just tourism-related projects.
First by Ms. Lockhart, second by Dr. Thompson. Any further comments? The only comment I would make, to your point, Rick, this is a city project.
It is.
It really is. It will be a game changer for us.
I'd just like to add a
Mr.
comment
Stewart.
too, is like there's so many projects in the city that people just don't realize how much people eat out. You know, a lot of these projects are being taken care of through our hospitality fees, and that's people who come here to visit the city, to eat in our restaurants and other places that serve meals, and it pays for projects like this. And you know, it's not taking any of the taxpayers' dollars. It's all about the people who's eating out in Anderson. And, you know, what, 10, 15 years ago when this thing was first enacted, you never would have thought that all the projects would get done in Anderson through this, but this is a great thing, and I'm glad that, you know, this city took the step and the citizens voted to see this project through and to pass this hospitality tax years ago, because without that, without the citizens passing that, we couldn't have projects like this take place.
Amen.
So I just want to thank you.
Any other comments? Had a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously on the first reading.
Thank you.
Thank you. The third and final item is request consideration of a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a guaranteed maximum price amendment with Edifice LLC for the Lindley Park project. Mr. McEwen?
Mr. Andrew Strickland, our Assistant City Manager, has been managing and directing this project through design, and then we're pretty close to the construction side of things. So, Mr. Strickland.
Thank you, Mr. McEwen. Mayor and council, what you have before you, like you mentioned, is a resolution to adopt a GMP amendment for Lindley Park project. As you're aware, this is the culmination of a lengthy design process. Back in the summer of 2022, the city hired Goodwin Mills Kaywood to get started on construction design and construction documents for the project. And then again in May of 2023, you hired Edifice to begin pre-construction services. And, we're here now, right? So we're ready for construction to start. This has been a long time coming. As was mentioned with other projects tonight, this wasn't a project just dreamed out of a hat. This was a vision cast in our Parks and Rec master plan. We use those documents to inform the projects we work on, the priorities that our community has for us to work on. And so, like was also mentioned, thankfully we're near the end of that master plan. We've ticked those projects off and we're ready to keep going. But tonight, getting back to Lindley Park, you have the contract approval to get Edifice started on construction. We have a couple members of their team with us here tonight. We have Mike Carlisto, Vice President with Edifice. We have Heath Edmiston, Project Manager, Mike Egger, also a Project Manager. And then from our design team, we have Nick Wade from Goodwin Mills Kaywood. If there are any questions specifically for them later on, you're certainly welcome to address those to those guys, certainly if I can't answer them. But no, so Lindley Park construction will include much more than a typical park upgrade project. We have some traffic improvements. A roundabout will be installed, a peanut about will be installed at North Avenue, Blair Street, and Watson and Glenwood to cure a tough intersection, a troubling intersection. There'll be a trail. The Whitner Creek Greenway will continue south from the north section of Lindley Park, ultimately to the rec complex and beyond. There'll be park upgrades, including new playground equipment, new pavilion and restrooms, landscaping, multi-use pathway, and then lastly, but not leastly, a stream restoration project that will hopefully, and we're confident will improve stormwater conditions throughout the entire corridor. So that was all a very quick summary that represents several years of a lot of work. I have a lot of documents in front of me that detail all of that. That was a quick and dirty summary. But we are asking you tonight to approve the GMP amendment in the amount of $13,416,048 with Edifice LLC. Happy to answer any questions as you move forward, but I appreciate your consideration tonight.
Thank you, sir. Questions? Comments?
Just comment. I think I mentioned it last time. You know, I just like, as this project I guess, starts and at some point when we get ready to dedicate, I'd just like to, you know, there, as I mentioned, there was a lot of memories taking place in them ball fields down at, you know, Lindley Park. And if there's something that we could do, you know, through, I guess, wayfinding or monument, something just to talk about, so as people are riding their bikes or coming to visit our parks, they can see something that talks about what used to be there. So let's just don't forget about the past as we move forward in the future.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments, questions?
I would like to have one other comment. I want to thank Andrew. Andrew has put a heck of a lot of time in with this whole park project. He has spent time with the people of the community. He's spent time with the builders, with the contractors, with everybody. This has been his baby, and we appreciate all he's done. And I'd like to see it move forward, so I would like to also say that we need to approve the city manager's, authorize the city manager to sign guaranteed maximum price amendment with Edifice LLC for the Lindley Park project.
Thank you. First by Ms. Lockhart.
Second.
Second by Mr. Stewart. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously on general approval. Thank you, guys. I think we got a document that's floating around here. Before we adjourn, I would like to just publicly say, we do know on council, and many of you know, that Dr. Thompson's son, Daryl, had to go through surgery, really serious surgery down at MUSC. I'm happy to say that he's back home and recovering, but he wrote us a letter, and I just would like to read it. It's addressed to our council and our city team. And Daryl says, "Thank you for your thoughts and prayers and compassion for my mother. I'm on the road to recovery and very grateful. Thank you, Daryl Thompson." Dr. Thompson, you want to say anything?
I'd like to say thank you for your support over this time that we've gone through. Dale has had such support from city council, city employees, and this whole community as a whole. So he is back home. He's had a heart transplant. He is in recovery. And today he drove himself to ANMED for therapy. So thank you so very much, along with supportive of Daryl and my whole family. Thanks a million.
Well, I'd just like to add too, and I know Dr. Thompson, you know, we've been praying for you for all these weeks that you've been going through this, but I would also just like to publicly thank, I know there's been a lot of people that's really helped you over this time, but just really like to thank Brandy Greer for all that she's done, you know, with you, being with you through this hard time, and just really publicly, you know, just thank her for going way beyond the call of duty to help, but just the love and compassion we have for our fellow employees and our council members goes unsaying. So
thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
First by Mr. Newton, second by Mr. Stewart. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? We stand adjourned.